Hello, I am so happy to welcome you to this episode of Leadership in Aviation Podcast. And I have someone who's become a dear friend to me on the podcast today. Mark Schulz is the founder of DigitalAircraft. We met on Facebook and then on LinkedIn, and now here we are in a podcast. Mark, I am so delighted to capture your nuggets of wisdom for leadership in aviation. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, Renee, thank you so much for inviting me to come and just have this conversation with you. You know, I'm really pleased to be here. And yeah, we did meet in a couple of different ways. And I think one of them, we really engaged for the first time when I did a virtual, conference is what I did. And you helped me. You jumped in and said, I'll help you out. And that was great. So I think that was about 3 or 4 years ago, probably.
You set boundaries. You know what your own boundaries are, and you set boundaries for other people. You trust that other people are experts. Like Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify. It sounds like you do exactly that you gather facts, that you get feedback. And one key that I think some leaders miss out on, you make decisions. You gather all the facts and you make decisions. And I think that's really important because sometimes as leaders, we get frozen and we don't make the hard decisions, or we punt or defer a decision. We give it off to somebody else so that we don't take the blame, and we kind of shift away from that. And I don't hear you saying that you do that you are decisive, but that sometimes what you're deciding is who you're going to trust, not always just trusting in your own fact finding. And I think all of those things, like it's a whole lot of layers and a whole lot of pieces, but those are the ingredients for your secret sauce. Did I leave anything out?
No, I think one of the other important things I'll add is that I've been in so many different situations, and the way you manage something, needs to adapt to the situation. All right. It's very important because, I had some instructors who worked for me at one point in time in my career, and they were used to having people tell them what we needed to do. And maybe it came from the fact that they were regulatory requirements for, maintenance training classes but so they weren't apt to tell me this is what we should do. And so I had to do my best to understand, what their perspective was on things. And I had to make a decision and say, okay, now this is what we're going to do. All right. And so just based on different circumstances, you can't go to people and say, what should we do? And expect them always to, make a decision. There may not be the proper circumstance. And one really good example I want to bring out, Renee, is that, like, for example, when I was learning to be an instrument pilot, my flight instructor was a woman who was very hard on me. Okay. And I go back and I look at that in retrospect and I say, I learned so much, from that. And when we're getting ready to descend to minimums, in the airplane, in instrument meteorological conditions, it's not the time to have a discussion of whether you go below the minimum or not. Okay. When I was in training and I was under a hood, she would beat me up horribly if I would go, 1 inch below minimums. All right. And the reason is because she was protecting me. And it wasn't a time where she would say, should we go below minimums or not? Okay. No, she said, we're not going to do that. Stop. And I'm going to explain this to you later on. And so my point in telling you these things is that different circumstances require different management techniques. And sometimes we have to respond differently based on the circumstances. Like, let's say it's a safety situation, or let's say that, that there's a financial emergency that's going to occur. And if somebody didn't, take immediate action to stop something, it would create catastrophic results. Or so I'm just saying that different circumstances require different management techniques. And one of the things I've learned over the years is that I have to assess the situation. I have to understand the factors that are important, okay, and make the decisions based on those things. It's a combination of urgent and important. You can't only act on the important and you can't only act on the urgent. You have to find the balance between them and make the right decisions for the circumstances.
Oh, that's so rich. Thank you so much for sharing that.